Welcome to RLP Audiobooks channel, the channel that brings forgotten books back to life in audio format, so you can listen to whenever and wherever you desire, whether you're driving, chilling, and even sleeping. Please consider subscribing to the channel and click the notifications button so you don't miss out on any other videos. Now, relax, listen, ponder, and enjoy.
Surah 92. Al-Layl. Context. Period of revelation. Its subject matter so closely resembles that of Surah 91, Ash-Shams, that each surah seems to be an explanation of the other. It is one and the same thing, which has been explained in Surah 91, Ash-Shams, in one way, and in this surah, in another. This indicates that both these surahs were sent down in about the same period. The theme and subject matter. Its theme is to distinguish between the two different ways of life, and to explain the contrast between their ultimate ends and results. In view of the subject matter, this surah consists of two parts. The first part consisting of verses 1 to 11, and the second of verses 12 to 21. In the first part at the outset, it has been pointed out that the strivings and doings that the individuals, nations, and groups of mankind are engaged in the world are in respect of their moral nature, as divergent as the day is from the night, and the male from the female. After this, according to the general style of the brief surahs of the Qur'an, three moral characteristics of one kind, and three moral characteristics of the other kind, have been presented, as an illustration from among a vast collection of the strivings and activities of man, from which every man can judge which style of life is represented by one kind of the characteristics, and which style of life by the other kind. Both these styles have been described in such brief, elegant, and pithy sentences that they move the heart and go down into memory as soon as one hears them. Characteristics of the first kind are that one should spend one's wealth, adopt God consciousness and piety, and acknowledge the good as good. The second kind of the characteristics are that one should be miserly, should least care for God's pleasure and His displeasure, and should repudiate what is good and right. Then it has been stated that these two modes of action, which are clearly divergent, cannot be equal and alike in respect of their results. But just as they are divergent in their nature, so they are divergent in their results. The person, or group of persons, who adopts the first mode of action, God will make easy for him the correct way of life, so much so that doing good will become easy for him, and doing evil difficult. On the contrary, he who adopts the second mode of life, God will make easy for him the difficult and hard way of life, so much so that doing evil will become easy for him, and doing good difficult. This passage has been concluded with a most effective and touching sentence, saying,
"This worldly wealth, for the sake of which man is even prepared to risk his life, will not go down with him into the grave. Therefore, what will it avail him after death?"
In the second part also, three truths have been stated equally, briefly. First, that God has not left man uninformed in the examination hall of the world, but He has taken on Himself the responsibility to tell him which one is the straight and right way, out of the different ways of life. Here, there was no need to point out that by sending His messenger in His book, He has fulfilled His responsibility, for both the messenger and the book were present, for guidance. Second, that the master of both the world and the hereafter is God alone. If you seek the world, it is He who will give it, and if you seek the hereafter, again it is He who will give it. Now, it is for you to decide what you should seek from Him. The third truth that has been stated is that the wretched one who rejects the good, which is being presented through the messenger in the book, and turns away from it, will have a blazing fire ready for him. As for the God-fearing person, who spends his wealth in a good cause, without any selfish motive, only for the sake of winning his Lord's good pleasure, his Lord will be pleased with him, and will bless him with so much, that he will be well pleased with him. Surah 92. Al-Layl.
The night.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. By the night, when it covers
With darkness.
and by the day, when it appears, and by He, who created the male and female, indeed your efforts are diverse. As for he, who gives and fears God, and believes in the best reward, we will ease him, toward ease. But as for he, who withholds, and considers himself free of need, and denies the best reward, we will ease him, toward difficulty. And what will his wealth avail him, when he falls?
Meaning, when he dies, or is destroyed. It can also mean, when he falls into the hellfire.
Indeed incumbent upon us, is guidance. And indeed to us, belongs the hereafter in the first life. So I have warned you of a fire, which is blazing. None will enter to burn therein, except the most wretched one, who had denied and turned away. But the righteous one will avoid it, he, who gives from his wealth to purify himself, and not giving for anyone, who has done him a favor to be rewarded.
Meaning, without intending reciprocation for some benefit to himself.
But only seeking the countenance of his Lord, Most High. And he is going to be satisfied.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed listening to this book, please give it a like, and consider subscribing to the channel, and click the notifications button, so you don't miss out on any other videos.